Well, good morning and welcome to another edition of Elevenses. I'm Kevin Williams of Survival Skills Rider Training, and you're with me for the next 15 or so minutes whilst we talk about various items from the world of motorcycling. What have we got for you today? Well, a rather depressing toll of crashes, sadly, over the bank holiday weekend. There's a bike show that you might be interested in coming up in just over 10 days' time. Top level bike racing looks like it's going to be returning to the wonderful circuit of Spa-Francorchamps. Well, let's get rid of that again. Coronavirus outbreaks. 8 states have linked them to the rally in Sturgis. And finally, interesting one, did traffic rebels remove pavement widening barriers in Camden Town? All right, let's start with the bad news first. Here's what my newsfeed told me over the bank holiday weekend. Neath, man killed as off-road bike hits wall. Lincolnshire, heartbreakers. Motorcyclist 33 dies in crash between Skoda, Mercedes lorry and motorbike. Merthyr Tydfil, motorcyclist 42 dies after his red Kawasaki motorbike was involved in a crash with a black Ford. Stirling, woman fighting for life in hospital. Lost control and left the roadway. Liverpool, motorcycle rider hit by lorry and seriously injured after crash at Busy Junction. Glasgow, biker killed in crash between motorcycle and lorry. Humberside, blue Volkswagen Polo collided with a man on a Honda motorcycle, and the man sustained fatal injuries and died at the scene. Devon, motorcyclist seriously injured in a crash on the A377. Riding is never ever going to be safe, but the trouble is we're having the same accidents over and over. This is something that I go on about. It's the rationale behind my survival skills courses, that if we don't understand how crashes happen, we're not going to avoid them. And sadly, many of these crashes just happen over and over at the same places. So today, have a free download on me, a giveaway. It's my accident top 10 ebook that I wrote some years ago, and you can read that and hopefully apply some survival skills to your riding. So the link is now going up on the comment stream to the show. So don't forget, you're watching Elevenses here with Kevin Williams, and we'll be keeping you busy for the next 12 minutes or so. Don't forget, if you've got a comment or a question, feedback, anything you like, drop me a line via the comment stream and I'll get back to you at the end of the live show. Okay, on with a little bit more cheerful news. If you are looking to do something on Sunday the 13th, you could do, is it Sunday or is it Saturday? Actually, I'm not sure. You better check the date, actually. I'm feeling it's Saturday. Anyway, it's the Leicester Long Shop Museum's annual motorcycle show. The museum is in the small village of Leicester, which is just outside Saxmundham, which is out on the Suffolk coast, if you know the area. And they're going ahead with plans for their annual motorcycle show. They claim that they'll be having a wonderful selection of motorcycles there. I would imagine that quite a few people who normally show their bikes at shows will have missed out this year, so there could be a pretty good selection, I would guess. But frankly, the Long Shop Museum's worth a visit in its own right, having had a look at it this morning. The Leicester Works, or more popularly known as Garrett's after the family firm, it was a business owned by Garrett's from 1778 to 1932, after which it passed into the hands of Bayer Peacock. Uniquely, it was the world's first purpose-built workshop designed for assembly line production. So it was quite unique. The company were pioneers in the field of agricultural machinery, and they designed and made a range of items like plows, steam engines, peat harvesters, trolley buses, and washing machines. And they were exported right across the world at one point. The works finally closed in 1981, but the historic core was preserved and reopened as a museum in 1984. So some of the key exhibits in the Long Shop, they've got several steam engines. They've got a Suffolk Punch steam tractor. The original Works shunting locomotive is there. And they've got a host of other steam-powered machines, including threshing machines. Now, obviously, COVID-19 restrictions are still in place, so spaces to the show will be limited, and tickets be by ticket only, and tickets are obviously out for sale on a first-come, first-served basis. The cost is £8 per adult, children £4, free if you're under 4. And anybody bringing a bike to the display gets in free too. Spokesman said, great family day out, so why not come over and have a wander around and see the variety of motorcycles on show. Starts at 10, finishes at 4, and the URL for the museum is here. Just going to pop that up as well for you. Okay, so that's something you might be able to look at. Right, okay, what else have we got? Well, possibility of the return of top flight motorcycle racing to Spa-Francorchamps. Now, if you've never been to Spa, and I have to admit it's probably my favourite circuit that I've ever been to, you're missing out. It's as unique in its own way as the Isle of Man. It's got a long history there. The original circuit was miles and miles long, but the existing circuit is a shortened version. It's hilly, it twists and turns in the depths of the Ardennes. It's still based on old public roads, and it's 4.5 miles long almost. And it's been years since it hosted an international motorcycle competition. But in something of a surprise move, Spa's artificial grass runoff areas were replaced with asphalt just before the recent 2020 Belgian F1 car Grand Prix. It was a change that was criticised by several of the drivers who complained it allowed competitors to run wide and regain the track without losing any time. But the F1 race director, Michael Massey, explained the change was made as the circuit seeking a licence from the FIM to hold motorcycle racing. And for fairly obvious reasons, artificial grass isn't suitable or as suitable as tarmac runoff. Massey said it's no secret here that Spa's working on their FIM licence and getting motorcycles back, and artificial grass is not part of that, so it's been removed. It's been many years since top class racing took place at Spa. The last GP was as long ago as 1990, so 30 years ago, and it was won by Wayne Rainey. The regional government has an ambitious plan to get the MotoGP races back by 2024, but the top flight competition could see a return of the World Endurance Series there for the 21-22 season. For many years I was actually over there spectating at the endurance races, and it's a wonderful, wonderful event, completely different from anything else you might have experienced. It's a really unique circuit as well, and it's a real antidote to the bland stadium circuits that predominate everywhere. If you've never seen a place like Spa, it really is worth a trip. The big challenge, I'll be getting TV coverage over its entire length because it is a long track. Okay, don't forget the doctor is in. My revamped courses are up and running. I'm taking bookings right through September now. If you're too far away for an on-road session, don't forget I do run inexpensive online coaching sessions on a whole range of different topics. Either you can pick one that I have pre-prepared, or you can tackle me and get me to prepare one for a specific problem that you have. And I have also just this morning put up 2 brand new items on my coffee page. They access to those articles, a couple of hundred already up, is just £3 for a month. So do go over there, have a look, see what you can read. I've just put a free one up, so do pop over to coffee, and you can access my free article right this minute if you want to. And again, just in case you haven't got the link, here it is. Right, what else have we got? Sturgis. The Rally was predicted to be a super spreader event, and indeed coronavirus cases have been linked to people returning home from Sturgis in no less than 8 states. Nearly 500,000 people attended the event, despite warnings about the pandemic. Bars and concerts were packed throughout the 10-day rally, and attendees have travelled back to more than half of all the counties in the US, which tells you just how far people go to get there. And what they've done is they've used anonymous cell phone data to track people travelling back to see where they went. And that's a fairly spectacular map of what Sturgis has led to. Okay, so rather odd story. I complained a couple of weeks ago that my training course had been disrupted in London by pavement widening barriers, which meant that even on the bikes we got stuck in a jam for the best part of 20 minutes that we couldn't get out of. One of Camden's busiest roads has been reduced to a single lane by the barriers which were put in place. You can see the blue barriers there. And the resulting pinch point is actually so narrow that it was actually impossible to filter through. You couldn't even ride a bicycle through the jam. Jackie McDonmel, who cycles between home and the London Business School, was quoted in a local press as saying, "I know I shouldn't, but I had to go on the pavement because the traffic's not moving, it's so narrow." I'm finding it awful, to be honest. So, it's not just motorists that have been inconvenienced by this ill thought out scheme, it's even cyclists. So I'm not the only one complaining. People living nearby have been writing to local papers, objecting to the measures. Traffic has backed up into Regent's Park. And because people are looking for an alternative way round, jams have formed in nearby residential streets as well. So there are a lot of people very, very unhappy with this scheme that was put in without any consultation. And pavement widening measures were claimed to be aimed at creating more room for pedestrians. But as I said at the time, and as somebody as the local paper reported too, that stretch of pavement there is almost 4 meters wide, and it's not an area where pedestrians congregate. The supposed justification for social distancing actually made no sense in that particular area. So no consultation with local businesses or residents, but as of last week, the plastic barriers had mysteriously resumed or been pushed back to the curb, which allowed a sort of reasonably normal traffic flow in 2 lanes. And basically what happened, of course, was the jams went away. But who moved them isn't entirely clear. There's no word from the council, Camden, and a spokesman for Transport for London have said that it wasn't them. A spokesman for the authority said that they haven't made any changes to the scheme, saying that they are continuing to review it, but they were aware that the barriers had been moved. And a local resident, William Miller, said, "Let's hope they don't put them back. I fear it might have been some rebellious and angry locals, along with businesses who'd had enough. There'd be no shortage of people willing to do it." Meanwhile, Sam Monk, who's the TfL's head of Healthy Streets Investment and Delivery, what a wonderful title, he said, "It's absolutely vital that London's recovery from coronavirus is sustainable, which is why we're working closely with councils to rapidly create extra space for walking and cycling. We monitor all schemes to ensure they're working as they should, and are currently reviewing the scheme along partway to see if changes could be made to improve it." Well, clearly this one hasn't worked, and it hasn't actually been in a useful place. So it would be very useful if they just booted the damn thing into touch. Right, okay. Last thing I want to talk about today is technology on bikes. Obviously one of the things that's happened with the sort of fly-by-wire style control units on motorcycles, the increasing sophistication, is traction control. Now, I don't actually have traction control on either of my motorcycles. My Hornet is far too primitive to have any electronic aids. Whilst the XJ6 has ABS, it was predated the sort of cheap traction control. And what came about because I was working with somebody on one of my online coaching sessions the other day who's recently bought a new Ducati, and Ducati offers what they call their DCT, Ducati Traction Control, which comes with a number of profiles or sensitivity levels, no less than 8, in fact. And each one, they say, is programmed to a wheel spin tolerance matched to progressive levels of riding skill. Now, I find this slightly alarming, actually, because what's traction control all about? Well, it's about stopping the rear wheel spinning when the road surface is degraded. So surely, rather than claiming this is a rider skill aid, surely it should be down to riding conditions. And if you are on a slippery surface, then presumably it makes sense to have traction control that works. But what tends to happen when you start talking about things as being a rider skill aid? Well, I know immediately what happens. People start turning it off. They think, I'm smart enough, I'm clever enough, my riding control is good enough that I can control wheel spin. Maybe they can, maybe they can't. There are certainly riders who've got a lot of off-road experience who are very good at detecting wheel spin. But quite frankly, when it kicks in, it is very, very difficult to recover if you're at any kind of a lean angle. I've fallen off myself on roads where I've just applied a little bit of throttle and the road surface has been so slick underneath me that the back wheel spun straight out. And once it's gone, it's gone. You're not going to get it back again because the lean angle immediately increases, the traction requirement increases, and you've lost control of the bike straight away. So the idea that wheel spin is something that a rider can handle with skill, I find slightly baffling. I'd rather it worked and I didn't have to worry about it. Now, something that was quite interesting. I was watching the 24-hour race from Le Mans over the weekend. I managed to watch quite a lot of it, actually. And it was a changeable weekend in terms of weather conditions. Sometime around the early evening, there was a sudden shower of rain, got the track fairly wet, and instantly there were riders falling off left, right, and centre. Now, these riders are skilled at their job. In fact, they ride a very specialised form of racing because they ride in the dry and they ride in the wet. They don't stop. So you would expect these to be the people who are probably amongst the highest skilled in the world. And yet, as soon as the track got wet, they were falling off. And it wasn't just on the slicks either. It was people falling off on the wet tyres. One rider even explained that he fell off while he was actually adjusting the traction control. So it's an interesting question about how much the traction control can really work. I rode a V-Strom 1000 out in New Zealand in 2018, and one of the standout moments for that was a big slide on a wet surface. Again, long dry period, ended towards the end of the summer, very hot, and then suddenly a 5-minute shower, just enough to make the road particularly slippery. And one thing that the New Zealand roads tend to be a bit grim for towards the end of the summer is that they get these polished patches where the stone chips get rolled into the sort of the tar resin underneath it, and so you get stone chips on certain lines where the car wheels don't go, and then a nice polished area. And I just got off the stone chips and onto the polished area, and the back wheel tried to overtake the front in the middle of a corner. Now, things like that always feel a little bit more aggressive when you're sitting in the driving seat of the bike. But anyway, I got that back under control, more to do with the road surface than anything else. But it was a fairly dramatic slide. I noticed that because the car that had been hassling me through the bend a moment earlier was suddenly about 100 meters behind me. So he must have seen that twitch from the bike and hit the brakes, thinking I was about to fall off. But the interesting thing is, of course, that particular model of V-Strom is actually fitted with traction control. Yet the tyre still slid. I seen no sensible answers to that. I did sort of pop a question up and say, has anybody else had this? And got a resounding blank on explanations. The only thing I can assume is that the tyre didn't wheel spin. It just drifted sideways on the slippery stuff. So as there was no dramatic change of revolutions between front and rear wheel, the traction control didn't detect a problem and the back wheel simply went sideways. Is traction control quite what we're expecting it to be? I don't know. But what I would say is if you've got it, and it's slippery, don't turn it down to 1 and hope your controls are good enough to keep you out of trouble. If you've got 8 settings, put it up on the max one. I can't see that you'll lose anything on the road by turning it up to the max. All right, okay. That's pretty much it for the session today. Don't forget, of course, that my courses are still available. As I said, online coaching is available now, and I am putting together a series of topics, and you can tackle me with your own topic. And my training courses are also available to book now right through September. So, right, that's it for today from Elevenses. Thanks very much for tuning in. We'll be back on Sunday and 11 o'clock, and hope to see you then. Do look in, and hope you've enjoyed today's show. So, all right, thanks for watching, and bye for now.